He was 74. No one was around. And suddenly, a strange pain in his chest. Most senior citizens wouldn't have done what he did next, and that's exactly why so many don't survive. But this man, he acted fast. And because of that, he lived. In this video, I'm going to show you what saved his life, and what could save yours too. You'll discover the subtle signs, the common mistakes, and the exact steps doctors wish every elderly person knew before the heart attack begins. Pay close attention, because what you're about to learn may be the reason you live to tell your own story. It often starts with something so small, most senior citizens don't even mention it. A strange fatigue, as if your body is asking for a break it never needed before. No chest pain, no dramatic collapse, just a heaviness that settles into your limbs, like walking uphill on a flat street. Many elderly brush it off as just age, or a bad night's sleep. But what if this wasn't aging? What if it was the first whisper of a heart crying out for help? Then comes the nausea. Not the kind that sends you running to the bathroom, but a quiet unease in the stomach, subtle, persistent. It can feel like bad digestion or something you ate. You take a mint, sip some tea, and wait for it to pass. And while you're waiting, your heart might be struggling in silence. These understated clues are often missed because they don't match the heart attack image we've been taught. They don't look like danger, but they are. Cold sweat is another classic sign that gets overlooked. Imagine sitting quietly, and suddenly your skin feels clammy, your shirt sticks to your back, and there's no explanation. That's not just a moment of stress. It could be your body warning you that something deeper is wrong. But how many seniors notice a sweat and think heart? Most think it's heat, anxiety, or nothing at all. And by the time they think twice, the damage could be halfway done. Let's not forget the arm. That dull ache or tingling that travels down the left side, or sometimes the right, or even the jaw. Some write it off as arthritis or sleeping wrong. But this creeping discomfort is one of the most telling signs of a cardiac event. Still, it's dismissed too often, especially by elderly individuals used to powering through pain. But powering through a heart attack? That's a gamble that most don't win. Healthy aging means knowing what not to ignore. And the truth is, these signs, fatigue, nausea, cold sweat, and arm pain, don't always arrive together. Sometimes it's just one. But recognizing even one can be the difference between life and death. Think of these symptoms as puzzle pieces. Alone, they're easy to ignore. Together, they form a warning that demands attention. And too many senior citizens never learn to put those pieces together in time. Understanding these early signs doesn't mean living in fear. It means being prepared. Knowing when something's off, when that fatigue isn't just a slow day, or that nausea isn't last night's soup, is part of protecting your senior health. Because when the pain finally hits the chest, that moment you've seen in movies, it might already be too late to wait. It was late afternoon, the kind of quiet only a house with no one else in it can offer. The TV murmured in the background. A cup of tea sat untouched on the table. He was alone, like many senior citizens often are. And then it hit him. Not like a thunderclap, not like someone punching him in the chest. It was different. A strange pressure, deep and unsettling, right in the center of his chest. It wasn't sharp, it was heavy, like someone had placed a brick over his heart. At first, he didn't move. That's the part most people don't understand. Panic doesn't always scream, it whispers. He sat there, hoping it would pass, telling himself it was indigestion or maybe just anxiety. But deep down, something felt off. His breathing grew shallow. The air in the room seemed heavier. That's when fear crept in, not the loud kind, but the paralyzing one that tells you, this might be serious. He stood up slowly. The world tilted slightly. A wave of cold sweat spread down his back. He reached for the wall to steady himself. No one was there to ask, "Are you okay?" No voice answered. For many elderly living alone, that silence is the most dangerous part. In that moment, what you do or don't do becomes everything. and the next 60 seconds decide the rest of your life. He touched his chest, not with drama, but with confusion. It was an unfamiliar pain, deeper than anything he'd felt before. It radiated, not just in his chest, but into his jaw, his shoulder. It didn't scream. It pressed. And that's what makes it so deceptive for senior health. These symptoms don't look like the heart attack we expect. They look like small discomforts that are easy to dismiss. Until they're not. Let's be honest. How many senior citizens would recognize that moment for what it is? Most would wait. Drink water. Sit back down. Hope it goes away. But he didn't. Something told him, this isn't normal. This isn't just age or gas or fatigue. He remembered hearing somewhere, maybe a TV show, maybe a doctor, what he should do if he ever felt a different kind of pain. And now, that moment was here. What happened next was instinct, but also knowledge. Because when you're alone and the walls don't answer, what you know might be the only thing that saves you. That's when he made a choice, one that would change everything. And believe it or not, what he did in those next seconds is something most senior citizens never even think of doing. With no one around, and the weight in his chest growing heavier by the second, he knew he had no time to lose. But instead of panicking or sitting back down, like so many others would, he made a decision. One that doctors say can mean the difference between life and death for senior citizens. He reached for his phone, hit the emergency number, and placed it on speaker. That simple move, using the speaker function, allowed him to stay upright and keep both hands free, crucial in moments like this. But that wasn't all. While the call connected, he did something even fewer people know about. He began to cough. Deep, forced coughs from the diaphragm. It might sound strange, but in certain cases, this action helps keep oxygen flowing to the brain during cardiac distress. It's not a cure, but it can buy time. It's a tip shared by some cardiologists when waiting alone for help. He didn't learn it in medical school. He picked it up in a senior wellness seminar a year earlier. Funny how the things we don't think we'll need become life-saving when the time comes. Next, he laid down, but not flat. He raised his legs slightly using a pillow from the couch. That one move improved blood flow to his vital organs. It's not something people instinctively do, especially when pain is high and thoughts are foggy. But he had rehearsed this moment in his head before, part of a what-if plan he never expected to use. And now, it was guiding his every move. For elderly people, especially those living alone, having a mental emergency plan is just as important as having medication. The emergency operator answered. Calm voice, clear instructions. He followed them to the letter, trying to keep his breathing steady, his mind focused. Don't hang up, she said. Help is coming. And though every second felt like a lifetime, he stayed on the line. This is the moment most people break, when fear takes over, when you feel completely vulnerable. But because he had prepared, he wasn't frozen. He was acting. And that single shift, from fear to action, is what makes all the difference for senior health outcomes. Let's reflect. In less than a minute, he'd done 3 things right. He called for help. He started controlled coughing to keep circulation going, and he got into a position that supported blood flow. None of this required fancy tools, just knowledge, clarity, and a willingness to act. Imagine how many lives could be saved if more senior citizens were taught these 3 simple actions. Yet most aren't, and that silence can be fatal. What happened next wasn't in his hands anymore. But what he did, those first 60 seconds, set the stage for everything that came after. And sadly, most people his age don't make these decisions. Why? Because they're still doing things that could make it worse, sometimes without even realizing it. When chest pain strikes, most people, especially senior citizens, do what feels safe. But often, those instincts can work against them. One of the biggest mistakes? Sitting back and waiting. Let me rest a little, it might pass, they think. But that delay can cost precious minutes. In the case of a heart attack, every second matters. It's not about panic, it's about action. And unfortunately, waiting for the pain to go away on its own has been the last decision for too many elderly who never got another chance. Another common move is reaching for a glass of water and lying down. It sounds logical, hydrate and rest. But when it comes to heart attacks, lying flat can worsen the situation by decreasing blood flow to the heart and brain. Worse, drinking water in that state can lead to choking or increased nausea. Still, this remains one of the most repeated comfort routines among older adults. It's soothing, yes, but dangerously misleading. The comfort it brings might be covering up a storm brewing inside. And then there's the classic, calling a family member first. Many senior citizens, especially those who live alone, dial their children or neighbors instead of emergency services. They do it because it feels more personal, less dramatic. But your son in another neighborhood, or your friend 5 blocks away, can't save you faster than trained professionals can. Every moment spent explaining symptoms to someone who can't help immediately is a moment lost in survival. The heart doesn't wait for callbacks. Sometimes, older adults ignore the pain altogether. They chalk it up to just getting old. A twinge here, a tightness there. It all blends into the aches of aging. But there's a difference between discomfort and distress. Healthy aging doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means knowing which pain deserves attention and acting fast. And yet, we're never really taught to tell the difference. Most senior health education still focuses on diet and exercise, not life-saving awareness. Another mistake? Not keeping emergency items nearby. Too many seniors have their medications, ID, and health information scattered around the house. In an emergency, those seconds wasted searching through drawers can cost everything. A simple action, like keeping a labeled folder near the door or phone, can mean faster treatment. But unless someone teaches them, most elderly individuals never think of it until it's too late. It's not just about survival. It's about being smart, prepared, and ready when it counts. And let's not forget denial. That stubborn voice that says, "I'm fine. It'll pass. I don't want to bother anyone." That mindset is dangerous. Especially for those living alone, pride can be fatal. That's why sharing these truths is so vital. Because only when someone truly sees how common these mistakes are, can they begin to change their approach, and maybe, just maybe, write a different ending than the one so many others have faced. When it comes to heart health, the advice from cardiologists isn't meant to scare, it's meant to empower. And for senior citizens, the most valuable tool is preparation. Doctors consistently emphasize one truth. Don't wait to learn what to do after a heart attack starts. Learn before. That's why one of the top recommendations for those in their 60s and beyond is to build a personal emergency plan. Just like we keep fire extinguishers for just in case, we should have a clear, simple plan for heart emergencies. So what goes into this plan? Start with having a written list of emergency contacts taped to the fridge or near the phone. Include your medications, allergies, and any heart conditions you've been diagnosed with. Many elderly forget that in the middle of a panic, your memory might not work the same way. A simple paper with clear info can speak for you when words are hard to find. It's not paranoia, it's preparation. And preparation is a cornerstone of healthy aging. Doctors also recommend learning and rehearsing what actions to take if chest pain begins. For example, call emergency services immediately, put your phone on speaker, sit upright, and if advised, chew a 300 milligrams aspirin, unless you've been told otherwise. These steps are simple, but under stress, they can be hard to remember. That's why practicing them mentally, just like practicing a fire drill, can make all the difference. It's not about living in fear. It's about living with awareness. Another essential step is education. Ask your cardiologist what symptoms are most likely to affect someone your age. Not all heart attacks look the same, especially in seniors. Some are silent, without the crushing pain we see in movies. Knowing the subtle signs, like fatigue or jaw discomfort, gives you the edge. And when it comes to senior health, knowledge isn't just power, it's protection. If you're unsure where to start, Many hospitals offer free heart health brochures or seminars specifically for the elderly. You can also invest in tools that increase your odds. Devices like a wearable alert button or a smartwatch with heart rate monitoring can be life-saving for those who live alone. Some even auto-dial emergency services if your heart rate spikes or you fall. These aren't just gadgets, they're peace of mind. Think of it like locking your door at night. You may never need it, but it protects you if danger ever knocks. It's one of the most practical tips for a longer life. And perhaps the most overlooked advice? Talk to your loved ones. Let them know your plan. Practice it together. The more we normalize this kind of preparedness, the more likely we are to act swiftly when it matters. Senior citizens often say, "I don't want to be a burden." But taking charge of your health isn't being a burden. It's being brave. It's being smart. And for one man who followed this exact advice, it became the reason he lived to tell the story. He made it. Thanks to the actions he took in those first critical seconds, the ambulance arrived in time. The doctors confirmed it. It was a heart attack, a serious one. But they also told him something that stuck with him ever since. If you had waited 5 more minutes, that sentence echoed in his mind like a warning bell. And yet, he didn't just survive. He got a second chance, a chance to rewrite the rest of his life. Sadly, most senior citizens in his situation never get that opportunity. Today, his life is different. His mornings start slower, but with more gratitude. He follows a heart-healthy diet now, not because of fear, but because he knows the value of one more sunrise. He walks every day, rain or shine, even if just around the block. He's learned to listen to his body in a way he never did before. That's the quiet wisdom that often comes after surviving what many don't. And now, every small habit, every mindful choice, feels like a deposit into his longevity bank. His routine also includes connection, calls with friends, a standing game night once a week, volunteering at the community center. Because isolation, he now knows, is more dangerous than he ever imagined. It wasn't just his heart that was vulnerable that day. It was his solitude. And for so many elderly, living alone without a plan can turn one medical episode into a final goodbye. That truth changed the way he sees life. And it should change the way we all prepare for it. But here's the hard truth. He was lucky. Not everyone is. Not every heart attack gives a warning. Not every person reacts fast enough. And not every senior citizen has the knowledge he had. That's why his story matters. Because what saved him wasn't luck alone. It was what he knew and did. His story should be a blueprint, not a miracle. It should inspire action in others, not just sympathy. There's a sobering reality behind these stories. Most seniors who suffer a heart attack while alone don't make it to the hospital. The silence in their homes is never broken. Their plans were never made. Their phones never dialed. That's why spreading these stories is vital, not just to remember those who didn't survive, but to protect those who still can. For the sake of senior health, for the sake of our loved ones, for the sake of your future. And so the question becomes, when your moment comes, and it might, without warning, will you know what to do? Will you be ready like he was? Will you take the first step, the one that saves your life? Because what he did alone in that room wasn't superhuman. It was simple, clear, and life-saving. And it's something anyone can learn, if they're willing to pay attention before it's too late. Now let me ask you something. If you felt that same pain right now, would you know what to do? Would you act in those first 60 seconds? Or would you wait, hoping it passes? Because the truth is, hope doesn't save lives, action does. Most senior citizens still make the same deadly mistakes over and over again. Not because they don't care, but because no one ever showed them another way. But now you know. You've seen it. You felt the urgency. So what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you write down your emergency plan today? Will you talk to your doctor, prepare your medications, tell your loved ones? Or will you let this just be another video you watched and forgot? Remember, the next heart attack could happen tomorrow, and the clock won't stop to give you time to think. Your life, your future, is in the choices you make right now. And more importantly, Who else needs to see this? Who in your family, in your community, would be completely unprepared if this happened to them? Send this to them. Start a conversation. Because spreading knowledge is one of the greatest gifts we can offer as we age. Not just living longer, but helping others do the same. That's real legacy. Now tell me in the comments, did any of these signs surprise you? Have you or someone you know ever had a close call? What's one thing you're going to do today to be better prepared? I read every message, and your story could inspire someone else to act in time. And finally, if this helped you, imagine how many more lives we could reach together. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join our community of wise, strong, and proactive senior citizens. Because here, every video is another step toward healthy aging and a life well lived.